Hey kids, welcome to the Stylus Rebel rigging time thing. So before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to our friend Scripter, who made the master controller that you guys may have seen in one of my other videos. I mentioned that one of the really annoying things with these characters is going in if we need to change the line thickness, either going into this gear here and mucking around in there, or actually going in and manipulating the line art piece by piece. Often if we have close-ups of hands or something, we need to thin out the lines. So I was like, is there a way to make a node that could control this line thickness? And voila, here we go, brand new toy to play with. Right now it's for 15 only because it's using the master controller scripting maboober. I don't know how this stuff works, it's all magic to me. But you can just connect it below whatever you need to change the line thickness on, and it has this fancy window here. It does come with a backdrop here that tells what each of these things mean, but basically this is the on-off for the line thickness. So if we actually look at our little dually here, you can see that these line up to here. So the adjust pencil line thickness, you can turn on the ability to change that here, and then this will make it bigger or smaller. I haven't played around with these other ones, but it changes the constant minimum maximum. So we've got the option to do all these things using these little guys here, and you can read about it using the backdrop. So this is with the line thickness turned up. I probably should have put in a background here, and then if I move it down here, you can see that all the lines are much thinner just by using our little slidey bar there. Now it might have a little bit of a load time. It takes a few seconds for it to think and go through all the lines. So it's something you'd throw in once all your animation is finished. It's just like a compositing tool, but it's definitely a lot easier than going in and manipulating all the stuff. So there are plans to do a 14 friendly version. So stay tuned for that. I'll announce it on here and on Twitter, but this is a fun little toy we get to play with now. Thank you, Scripter. We love you and all the things you do for us. So let's come back here, and today we're going to start doing this fairy rig. So the reason this is going to be episode 0 is because it's going to be a lot about setup, some of the things I do to speed up the process, talking a little bit about templates and things you can do to make your workspace a little bit more friendly. And I am going to use 14, but I do plan on bringing this rig into 15 and adding stuff in there later, getting some of those cool new modules. But I just want to start in 14, so that everybody can see all the stuff that is a little bit more universal. It's going to be good for older versions. And then later I'll have an episode just for the 15 stuff, or an episode or two, so that anybody who actually has the new toys can go over there and play. So this is a premium version rig. I'm going to be using the network 100% of the time. So if you're not using premium, this won't help you. I'm sorry. That's just how I rig. I can't go back. The network is my friend. I love it. I love you, network. All right, so this is a brand new scene. My art has been protected. This guy here, I'm going to still do, well, first I'm going to name it, because have some pride, Tracy, jeez. Using my rename script, find and replace. I think the newer versions have this already, but if you don't have a find and replace script, you can just Google it, toonboom find and replace script, and you'll find that pretty easily. It's been kicking around for a few years now. But you absolutely need this, because we're going to be using things from our template library. We're going to be saving templates to save ourselves time, because we don't hate ourselves. And the #1 pet peeve of mine when I look at other tutorial videos, because I watch everybody's tutorials. If there's any tutorial out there for rigging, I watch it because I want every little piece I can to get faster and more efficient at this. And the thing they do is they'll say, okay, so I have my fairy art. It's probably like somebody drew it in Photoshop and imported it, and now I'm going to start showing you how to clean that up. That's not rigging, that's design, that's cleanup. We're not going to do any of that. I'm not going to show you how to draw an arm. That's a different whole thing. And then they're like, so let's start making some drawings, and they come down here. I don't even know where the thing is. Here? Drawing. And they're like, we're just going to type in here, and then we're going to add, and then we're going to add 700,000 modules. Then once we have that, we'll use the fan organizational tool so that we have 500 modules in this big useless fan. And I'm just, don't do that. If you want to rig characters, what you need to do is make yourself a character template. Don't make new drawings every time. all of your human characters are gonna need arms and legs, or at least some of those things. They're gonna need a head, they're gonna need a torso. So make yourself a template of those things that you use every single time. That drives me crazy when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go learn how to rig a thing. And then I watch someone name drawings for 35 minutes. I'm like, this isn't rigging, this is chaos. Ugh. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in a display. So we're gonna work off the display. So my template even has a display that says ASD display. This particular template has ASD on every single item that I've created already in case it needs a prefix. So now I can just select all and use my find and replace script ASD, and I can type in whatever I want my prefix to be. So this will be F for fairy or whatever you need it to be. And of course, if you don't want a prefix, you can select all, use this, find ASD, and then replace it with nothing. And now the prefix is gone. And you'd want to get rid of the underscore as well. The bad thing about find and replace is now if I wanted to undo that action, you'd actually have to undo it for every single one of these. But luckily there's add prefix or suffix already. So you can just add ASD to the beginning, and now it's replaced it on all those things that you've just removed it from. Oh, make sure you select prefix, because now I've added a suffix to everything, so it's at the end. All right, it's good to get those things out of the way first, because obviously if you have to undo all of that mess that you just added, it'll be easier. You can just delete it and bring in your character template again. Hooray! See, my character template's so simple. All right, so now this is just a ballpark. It's a very no bells and whistles template. It just has 2 front hair, 2 back hair pieces. Pelvis is just 1 piece. There's no belt. There's belly and chest. Just very, very simple. There's no auto patching or things in there. So I take this around with me throughout life. And if I'm working in a studio, I'm doing, say, like the R&D stage of a character rig, I start with this bare bones rig, and then I'll talk to the animation supervisor or whoever is handling the rigging there, and I'll ask them what their preferences is. Do they like auto patches? Do they prefer something with fewer auto patches? Do they like a ton of deformers, or do they like to keep it very light? Because every situation is going to be different. So I like having this very simple template so that it can go a lot of different ways. Then once you have a character template that works for that show, you save that complex template as a show template. So every rigger that goes into that show starts with the rig template. It has all the auto patches in already. The deformers can't be added in until the art is added in, but just having the eyes set up the way that they want. Right now I just have a cutter. So you can see a few different ways that I've done eyes in my eye rigging episode. And you can see, I think I showed 6 different ways to rig elbows. There's a big variety. So having a no bones template is really useful. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to have to add a bunch of drawings in. So I know that this character, for example, needs earrings. Right now I can find her ears. And working off a template, you also know where everything is. I know that her eyes are here and here, and then her mouth and ears and cheeks, all that stuff is in the center. I've been thinking about rearranging this a little bit just for ease of access, but I know where the things are. I know hair is here, and my body's here, torso's here, arms are here. So now as long as I keep things in those ballparks, whenever animators or riggers or anybody has to open this and add something in, they know where things are going to be because all of our characters are the same. It's really frustrating when you're working on a show and every single character has a completely different rig, because you spend time searching, and searching is a waste of time. Just if everything's kind of in the ballpark together, then we can work off this stuff. So I know for now I'm going to need some earrings. I have a drawing saved in here. I'm not going to come down here and add a drawing to who knows where in this network and then go find it and then rename it. That's too much work for me. I know I need 2 earrings, so I'm going to haul in 2 drawings. I'm going to use my rename script, find my ASDF, because each of them has ASDF. It's the easiest thing to type and it's going to be unique. And then I'm going to change it to earring. This ear has this earring. Move it over. This ear has this earring. Now, all my settings are the way I like. My animate using animation tools is off, because I don't want my animators putting their animation on their drawing level. I want it all to be on the peg. And you can check out the drawing video in my rigging tutorial series to figure out why that's a good idea. But keeping things separate is great. All of the things in here I have a separate position because that's what most animators prefer. Any of those settings that you need, it's saved in here. Because if you grab an element, I mean, a drawing's not even named a drawing in the node view. Element. So if you grab an element out of here, this is a drawing. It's called element because way back in the old days, that's what drawings were called, was elements. Don't know why, but you can see animate using animation tools is on. If I come up here and look at my preferences, go to my advanced, animate using animation tools is off. But the node view doesn't listen to your preferences because Harmony. We don't know why. It's a mystery to us all. So you definitely don't want to be grabbing elements out of here. None of your preferences are saved, right? If I add a drawing down here, let's name it FFFFF, close. And it added it over by the hair. So I was trying to add something over by the ears. It added it over by the hair. Not useful. We're going to open here. And controls, it's off. So using it down here, you will get your preferred node thing, but up here you won't. The more you know. So that is one of the preferences I prefer, and that's in your advanced tab, is animate using animation tools is off. I like to turn on all of this stuff. You're going to want your overlays and underlays. I think I have an episode, Bits and Bytes 1, that covers all my favorite preferences, just things like focus on mouse enter. I like to have that on. Some of the shortcuts I've added, things like that. So you can check out that video if you want to know more about the specific preferences I use. But the important thing is just that you're using the preferences that your coworkers want you to. Because if I grab a peg now, I just Control P, it's got a 3D path, but we need that to be separate. So I just grabbed things out of here. And to save this, if you don't know how to use your library, that's a good thing to know. Right here, it's got a little lock on it, and this is just my work folder where I keep all this stuff. I'm gonna right click and hit right to modify. And now I can create down here, like make one drawing in one peg named ASD, ASDF, or just ASDF if you don't need prefixes. I have one of those as well. I'm not going to use my prefix one and then remove my prefix every time. I just made a second one with no prefix because don't do anything twice. You don't have to. So then you copy whatever you want to save, your little template that you use. I have one for all sorts of stuff. Here, I've just got a pass-through composite and the name is C. So I can bring in all these little small pass-through composites. Because if you grab a composite up here, composite, bloop, I pull that down here. One, the name is very long, so it's a big thing. If I need to just add one little thing here, look how much bigger that is. It's just taking up a lot more network space, so I like having the little C's. And also, it's set to a bitmap comp, but most of the time I need a pass-through comp. So I just saved one in here. Don't change the preferences on stuff over and over again. Just save it down here. I've got an auto group. So if I open this up, this is an auto patch group, the way that I like to use auto patches. Every studio may do it a little differently. You may need them for different things, but you just, whatever you need things set up for, create a little template and never make a second one. That's crazy. Too lazy for doing stuff twice. I ain't got time for that. I've also got an auto group temp. This character auto group temp. That's a character rig that's got the auto patches set up because I've had to do a show that had a lot of auto patches. So rather than adding in auto patch groups to the template every time, I have a template that has a character, a whole character with all those things built in. I've got a gray color card because if you need a background real quick, you don't want to have to change the colors and stuff. Color card, I can just slap that in there. And now it's the same color as the background, but when I hit my render button, it's going to be gray as well. It's a little thing to save time because, I mean, how much time did that take to change color? But I don't want to do it twice. I just want to have it. I've got layer selectors, so we're going to be using these a ton when we're doing rigging. I just have the overlay, the line art all separated. I prefer those over using the actual line art ones. These normally are found here in your filter isolate tab in your node library. So you can grab just a color art like that, or whichever one you prefer to use. And this one only has color art. You can apply the map ports to effects. That's important if you're doing stuff. Versus this guy here, he has the same flatten and apply and all this anti-aliasing stuff. It's just that you have a choice of which one you're going to use, as opposed to no choice. Like color art can only do color art, but this one you can have 2 or 3 or 4 selected. Sometimes I like to change my mind about what layer things are on, so rather than having to go back and grab a new one, I like being able to just open it, decide, oh, I need my overlay and underlay. Now I'll just change it to overlay, underlay, and close it. And it works out more quickly that way to me. Oh, I've got a spring, so I've been playing around with some of the 15 modules. I've been saving those in, and other templates just for particular shows or particular types of characters. If you know you're going to be doing a lot of quadruped characters and you need tails and ears and lots of different things like that, make a template and then just save it out, and never make a second template. Never ever make a character from down here. It's crazy. So now I got on that huge rant about making a template. When I'm starting a rig, I always start from the front view. That's my default, like my 0 animation position. I do know some riggers like to do a 3/4 view as their default position, but for me, the center is just the middle of the thing. And if I have 2 3/4 front views, one on either side, I have to choose which 3/4 front view is going to be the leader or the winner. So I prefer to go with the center, but that's really a preference thing. I can't tell you what you're going to choose as your first view, but I use the middle. First, I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to create a new version of this character. Boop. And if at any point I'm going a little bit too fast or something's not really clear on particular pieces of this character, the eyes, the ears, and stuff, my rigging playlist has every piece broken down individually, and I'll show a number of different ways to do different things. So even though this particular eye is going to be done a certain way, it doesn't mean it's the only way or the right way. This is just the way I want to animate my character. So now I've got our character art isolated and clean. We're going to deactivate this guy so he's safe down here in case we need him, because we're going to hack this one up. Right, so I'm going to cut the head and deactivate this because it's in our way. And I'm going to paste the head. Then I'm going to select everything here, the face. And I'm going to start grabbing each piece that I don't need in the nose, for example. I'm going to cut the rest, move down to the mouth, paste everything here. I'm going to make sure that the selected is on top. It's good to become familiar with your tools here, your light table, current drawing on top. You can also, in your view, do those things. So show current drawing on top. It's just a little faster to grab them down here. So it's good to become familiar with what each of those do. Left cheek. So we're going to grab everything except that cheek. Make sure I get those. And this way is faster than grabbing each piece one at a time. When I see people do that, it's like, well, now I'm going to copy the eyebrow and cut it, come up here to the eyebrow, paste it in. Now I'm going to grab just the pupil, and then I'm going to go back and back and back and forth. That takes so long. I ain't got time for that. The eye, I'm just going to leave the whole eye there. That's got to be broken up into a number of different pieces. So there's the eyebrow, bloop. Here's the eye. We're going to need makeup for the eye. Now we can grab the pupil, the color part, pupil, boop, boop, highlights, and then I know that my eye's set up so that the eye white is being used here as a cutter. All right. So this has makeup, which is another thing I'm going to have to add in here. I can decide whether I want my makeup to be on the eye itself. And in this case, I think I will. I'm going to add an underlay layer. Bloop. So I cut all that off. And I'm going to put it on the underlay. Then I'm going to move my layer selectors and use an underlay to display that. So when I'm doing this initial setup, I'm not going to spend a million years setting up all the stuff. I've already got little things like the cutter set up, but I'm not going to go through and put in arm joints and stuff right now. My first pass is just to get all the pieces in there. Now I know my makeup's going on my underlay layer. And if you know you're going across, you could grab your underlay and bring it along. But little layers like this, things like adding things to the underlay, I will do that in this initial pass just because it's not breaking my workflow to do that. And it's something I might have a little bit trouble remembering to do at another point. So now I got all my pieces are separate. Fabulous, my whole face is done. I left the ears on the head, so I can go back and grab the ears. And I grab both of them. I'm gonna put one ear here and one ear here. And you work your way down to the tedious stuff. All right, so here's my earring. See, so I'm gonna repair this hole that got left in there. I'm not going to detach this earring because it's not going to swing or move around. I may decide when I'm doing like the major rigging portion that it's worth it because you might want to change perspective or something. But I think if the ear is changing perspective, that this is going to too. It's just this needs to swing. I may even decide that I want this part here on the ear, and then we'll just deal with this lower part swinging. That might be a better decision. So let's do the same thing on this side. And make sure if you have two pieces, two earrings or two ears, whatever, that you're doing things symmetrically. And now I am going to fix the leveling on this. Boop, boop. Because it's something that is not going to disrupt my workflow too much. And don't forget to save. All right, head's done. Next we're gonna move down to the neck. So that's down here in the torso. I am probably going to separate this necklace into some pieces, this piece down here a little bit separately, but that's not something I'm going to do right now. First step, I just like to take all the pieces and put them where they need to live. Grab the arm, the other arm, come over here. And I know from experience that my upper arm is the far right one, just because this is my template, I live in here. And I'm just going to put the arms on the upper piece because I don't want to deal with separating these pieces at this stage. The torso, I'm just going to grab this whole upper piece and call it the chest. Let me turn the light table on so you guys can see a little better. And then I'm going to call this piece the belly, even though it could arguably be part of the pelvis. It's just, in my head, I'm kind of thinking ahead of how I want to rig it, and I don't want that involved in the legs down here. Bloop, over here. I'm just going to take the left leg, right leg. Just going to grab the two legs, cut, and paste them on the upper leg of each respective side. I know my lefts are all here, my rights are all here. And then I can just Control A and see what's in here. So I think I've just left out some little strokes. I don't think there's any art left. Yeah, a couple little strokes that were used in the initial design we don't need. So now I can deactivate this and get it out of the way. There we go. So the legs need to move back because she's got a skirt. I like the arms behind the body in this particular case, but this would be the next step, is working on my leveling. All right, everything's working here. This part here, I'm going to build in some shoulders, so that's going to be moved back later. But here we go. We're at the stage now where things are starting to come together. The next thing I do is I go through the entire rig and set up all of my pivot points. It's good to know that you can grab all these pegs like this using hold Control and then click. Boop, 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 boop. I don't want to move the pivot points on the drawings or anything, so I'm just going to manually select them all out here. And then you can move all of those at the one time. So now when I zoom in to do the head, because this part has to be a little bit more meticulous, I can select things and move them a little bit faster. These two I want in the same place. The pupil and color, all that stuff I want in the same place. And then the eyebrow, I like it out here. You know, start playing around with it, see where you like things. Not everybody likes the same thing, so whatever. This part's not really glamorous. This is one of the reasons I'm kind of like, should I really rig an entire character while people are watching? Is that fun to watch? Well, I don't know. This part's not. I can just put some Benny Hill music, I suppose, and speed the whole thing up. Again, you can grab all of these here and just move them closer, because when you're rigging, you don't want to have to reach way off the side of the screen, like, because it's always over here in the center. If your character happens to be over here, then that'd be a pain to have to reach over and grab it every time. So we can do that. Next shadow. Now this is something that's going to get added in quite a bit later. It's a real detail piece, and these things might get moved around. I'm not completely married to these pivot points at this time. It's just getting them closer. It's a lazier way to do it. And oftentimes something like the feet, if they're not very specific, you can just ballpark it anyway. So getting close enough like this will be fine. There's lots of pieces where that's the case. And then all the hair stuff. That's a good guess. We've got the whole torso here. We got the whole upper body, got the head. So in this place, I'm going to attach my neck to my head instead. Some places don't like it that way. I like it that way, but I want to make sure that my major hierarchy, so I'm just making sure that my major hierarchy is working. So the whole upper body character here, my master peg, is working. It's got a good pivot point. Whole upper body, that's a good place. Neck, head, features, eye. And you just always double check along as you go. This must be empty. Face shadow, yeah. All right, so that's it. All my stuff is set up. You can go through and just tap and make sure. And because I've set my template up already, my eyes are done. That's completely finished. I know I'm going to need a jaw, so I can hack this off right here. Slam it into the jaw layer on the color art line, color art area, so that I can manipulate the jaw shape if I need to. See, if I move in here, you can see that my mouth and my jaw are connected to line and color. This is actually clone guy right here. But that's something I can get into a little bit more once we get to the mouths. The next stage here, what I'm going to do, add in my layers. I have prefixes here, so I'm going to make sure to grab my prefix guy and think about where I'm going to add stuff. So this necklace, I'm going to attach to the chest because I have in mind a way that I think it'll rig well. Because I have in mind that I'm going to need it broken up into two pieces. I think one piece is going to need to go on the chest and one is going to be on the neck, but it's a little bit tricky as of now. I'm going to use the line art and color art to separate the front and back and then add in some layer selectors for that. So line art in the front and then the color art is going to go in the back of the neck. And because the neck is using this body comp, it's very easy to make sure that your leveling is working there. So I'm just going to go through each piece like that and get down to the smaller pieces, see what I need to break off. Because you can see the necklace is probably even going to need 3 pieces because I'm going to separate this guy as well. Attached to our belly, we're going to need a belt. So that goes ahead of the belly. We're going to need a belt. And it's also going to need to go behind because we're going to have back pieces. I'm not sure if they're going to be visible at all though. And I'm going to want to break that belt up as well. This we're going to need. We're going to attach it to the thigh. We're going to make sure I'm going to put it ahead of the lower leg. I think that's the better option, but we may decide that's the wrong choice in the long run. No big deal. And update our pivot script. I haven't actually updated my pivot script since I've reinstalled everything, so that's on my to-do list now. We may even decide to put in some deformers here. So this is what I'm going to call my pre-rig setup. This is everything I do before I actually start breaking these pieces up, chopping things up, and deciding what the real tough decisions are, making sure things are working. But I start with the front view, just putting all the art onto the pieces, then I adding in any little pieces I need, and then I set up all the pivot points. Next, once I get this far, I'm going to have to start taking things off and cutting things apart. So we'll get into that in our next video, just so each of these don't get too long. I'm also trying not to be too hardcore. I'm back in my wrist brace because I decided to take a good slide down my concrete steps and taking most of the way to my drawing arm. Don't recommend that. That's dumb. Thanks, Winter. You're the worst. Hopefully you got a few tips on how to make your stuff move along. I kind of don't want to give you guys a template because anybody who needs to learn how to make a template in the first place should probably spend the time putting this stuff together just so you can see how to add drawings and how to level them. And anybody who knows how to do that should have a template already. And if you don't, I'm going to punish you by not sharing mine. So get your templates ready, kids, because next week we're going to start chopping stuff up, worrying up pivot points, all that garbage. Hooray! Let me know if you have any other time-saving tips that you guys use to make sure that your rigging goes really simply in the beginning. So if you have any questions about this, just organizing, setting up your templates, things of that nature, please leave them down below here. Let me know if you use the scripter scripts. It's always fun to get new toys. Like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do, and I will see you in the next video.